Hello everyone and welcome back to a special storytime video. As some of you may remember, if you've been around here long enough, I had a tubal ligation surgery about 6 years ago when I was 24 years old that rendered me permanently sterile. Since then, I have had a ton of questions, not only about the procedure itself, but how I convinced a doctor to do that procedure, whether or not I have had any negative symptoms having to do with Post Tubal Ligation Syndrome, and whether or not I have any regrets about not being able to have kids. So before we get into this, I just want to be really super duper clear that anything that I say about kids, having kids, raising my own kids, is purely based on my opinions and my experiences. This video and the things that I'm about to say are not a judgment on you or the children that you have chosen to have with your body. That is purely your choice. I am merely talking about my choice, my opinion, my feelings, and my experiences. So if your feathers get ruffled about anything that I'm about to say, just keep in mind that this doesn't affect you. So I thought that this would be a great opportunity, given the recent legislative changes to women's capacities to manage their own fertility and lives. I thought that this would be a great opportunity to talk about how I took charge of my fertility and made the choice that was best suited for me, my body, and my lifestyle. So to start with, I decided to get this surgery because I have never wanted children of my own, ever. I have never personally heard a parent relate stories about pregnancy, childbirth, child rearing, or just being a parent in general that has ever made me think, yeah, what could go wrong there? Sign me up. As far as I can tell, growing, birthing, and parenting a biological child is the hardest job in the world. It is largely thankless, extremely financially taxing, and emotionally something that I don't think I could do well. And I don't want to do it. Period. Fortunately, I don't have to. So I started asking my doctors around the age of 18 if they would permanently sterilize me. I think that had I had the same doctor and asked many years in a row, I perhaps would have gotten the surgery sooner, but since I was moving around the country with different jobs and different lifestyles so much, I had different doctors, and they were all very hesitant to perform a permanent sterilization procedure on someone who was so young. They all said, "You're too young, you're gonna change your mind." No. So when I was 24, I moved to Hawaii, I got a new gynecologist, and I went into that appointment very, very prepared. I had a written out sheet of paper listing all of the reasons why I wanted to be permanently sterilized, why it was the best choice for me and my body, and I told the doctor straight up, I will sign whatever liability waivers you want me to. This is what I want. That doctor did argue with me a bit, and I really appreciate that he took the time to argue with me. We went through the fact that I don't like children, I don't want children. We went through my insurance coverage. I was still under my dad's really awesome insurance at that time, and I knew that I could get the permanent sterilization procedure 100% covered by insurance, and I wanted to use that insurance while I had it. We went over my health issues. I had hypothyroidism, and I don't believe that I could be hormonally healthy enough to support a pregnancy in a way that wouldn't destroy my own health. We went over my worries about my legal access to birth control and abortion services long term. And finally, we talked about climate change and the likely future that humanity has in front of it, which is going to be catastrophic, I think is a kind way of putting it. And after really calmly going through my reasoning with him, he said, "All right, let's get you on the schedule." I think I had to wait maybe 2 or 3 weeks for my surgery, which was totally fine. It gave me an opportunity to get prepared. Although I will say that in my cocky early 20s, I'm frickin' infallible way of thinking, I didn't plan as well as I should have. I was like, oh, it's a simple surgery. They just do a tiny little incision in my belly button. I'll be up and going to work the next day. I strongly underestimated the effect that the anesthesia was going to have on me, and I strongly underestimated how sore my stomach muscles were going to be from that incision. I went into the surgery, I was feeling good, they got me all prepped, put the IV in, exploded my vein. I ended up with a bruise from here to here. It was ridiculous. They finally got the IV in. I went under. I remember I woke up incredibly nauseated, and I remember just like whimpering that I wanted my mommy. I wanted to cry. I was just so uncomfortable. I lived about 2 blocks straight uphill from the surgery center, and my original plan was to walk home. I thought really highly of my physical capabilities. Fortunately, they had insisted that someone come pick me up, so I had arranged for someone to come pick me up. They did. Thank God. I got home. I didn't feel like eating any food that I had. I wish I had just made myself like gooey comfort food, but I had not. Went to bed, slept for several hours, and when I woke up, I was having some really sharp chest pains. And it was mostly when I would breathe in or move, it would just be the shooting pain mostly through my shoulder. I got kind of concerned, so I called this nurse's helpline that I had through my insurance. She explained to me that it was probably due to the carbon dioxide gas that they blow out your stomach cavity up with, and it usually just kind of migrates through your body, gets stuck some places. It lasts about 24 hours. And that was my experience. It lasted for maybe 6 to 12 hours, and then it was totally gone. And my stomach muscles were very sore. So as long as I was laying down and not really moving, I felt fine. I don't remember there being any pain. I don't even think I took ibuprofen. I guess I could have, but I have no recollection of that. But when I tried to move, it felt like I had done 6,000 sit-ups and then gotten hit by an older model Mini Cooper. Long story short, I ended up calling in sick to work the next day and was like, oh yeah, by the way, I had surgery. Not as easy as I thought it would be. They were cool with it. It would have been really nice if I could have planned for 5 days off work. I think would have been smart. Anyway, I guess like 12 to 24 hours after my surgery, I did start bleeding vaginally, and that was a little bit worrisome. They told me that there would be some, but that it wouldn't be too heavy. What I experienced was like a really heavy day on your period. Maybe even more so, there were some blood clots. I got nervous enough that I called my doctor who performed the surgery, and I went in for a checkup. They checked things out, said that they couldn't find the source of the bleeding and that it would probably be fine, but I should keep an eye on it, and if it got really intense, go to the emergency room. Fortunately, it didn't get too intense, though I was nervous for about a day. I think it would have been better if I had rested more, but every time I started feeling a little bit better, I'd be like, yeah, sure, I'll go to the market, or yeah, sure, let's go for a walk. And I think that was really stupid of me. I should have just been in bed, watching movies, sleeping, and healing, but live and learn, I guess. The next issue I had was with my incision site, and they had closed my small belly button incision. I'll show you the scar. Can you see it? It's right there. Quite tiny. They had closed up my incision with 2 dissolvable stitches. As it turns out, my body does not dissolve dissolvable stitches, and so they stayed in there and they caused a really mild infection. It was just a little red, a little bit itchy. Unfortunately, they did send me back to another surgeon to reopen the incision site, and he removed one of the dissolvable stitches. While I was on the table with my belly button numb and open, I said, yo, I think there's more than 1 stitch. He looked at me and said, no, there's not. I said, are you sure? He said, yes. I said, did you read the file? He said, there's only 1 stitch. I said, okay. So belly button looks a little bit better for about 12 hours. Then it starts to become reinfected again. I went back to the surgeon and said, it looks like it looked when it was infected. He looked at it and said, no, it's fine. So I went back home. It got increasingly more infected, And 2 or 3 days later, I just got fed up and reopened the incision on my own, and I pulled out 2 more dissolvable stitches. After all the issues with my belly button were cleared up, it was smooth sailing in the healing department. I felt great. I felt really relieved not to have to worry about getting pregnant anymore. Although I did get freaked out over the first, 6 months. I think I maybe took 3 pregnancy tests just in case, because I was nervous. But they were obviously all negative and all went well. I was super stoked. After I had my surgery and started talking about it on YouTube, several people started commenting about Post Tubal Ligation Syndrome and asking me what my experience with that was. At the time, I was thinking, well, I just had it done, so I can't really speak to my experience. But now that it has been 6 years, I feel confident in speaking to my experience about this. I have had 0 symptoms associated with post-tubal ligation syndrome. Since I had my surgery, I have been able to easily lose weight through great diet and lifestyle without any restriction. My hormonal health and reliability has gotten better and better. I've struggled with my hormones and my cycle since I was 11 or 12. I have never had normal cycles or hormone levels. It's been a genuine nightmare my whole life until around the time that I had my surgery. When I got my diet and my lifestyle really sorted out and dealt with stress levels, my cycle became really predictable and easy to deal with, and that has certainly continued since I had this surgery done. I have always been someone who struggled with depression and anxiety, and though I think that that's just part of my life, it certainly has not gotten any worse. If anything, it's gotten a lot better since having my surgery, and certainly taking the stress of having to worry about becoming pregnant without wanting to be has been a really huge relief. And I wake up every morning and feel really grateful that I don't have children and I don't have the responsibility of kids, and I don't have to worry about that responsibility. My partner and I, we just mention it all the time. Like, it's so nice that we get to have sex whenever we want to, however we want to, and we don't have to worry about a pregnancy ever. It's so nice. One thing that I would like to mention though is that 2 or 3 years ago, I did start experiencing some really mild pelvic pain. It wasn't even serious enough that I brought it up with my doctor, but as a massage therapist, I know that anytime that there's a trauma to the body, scar tissue is produced. And certainly when my fallopian tubes were cauterized, scar tissue developed. And so I knew that there was perhaps a chance that some of that scar tissue was starting to form an adhesion with other connective tissue in my abdominal cavity. Fortunately, as a massage therapist, I also knew that the way to remedy that potential issue would be with cross fiber and with fiber manipulation of the area. So I did that, just some really gentle pressing in the area around my ovaries or fallopian tubes. At the same time, I was doing stress relief practices, and I was working on doing practices to let go of some pelvic area tension that I was holding. And you can work with a wonderful pelvic rehabilitation therapist if that's something that you want to look into. So whatever the cause of that little bit of pelvic discomfort that I was experiencing, it did resolve, and I have not had any issues with that since then. Certainly it's possible that I could have issues in the future because of the scar tissue around my fallopian tubes, but in my opinion, the relief and the flexibility that I have been given by having had this operation is fully worth any potential side effects like that. As far as regrets about not being able to produce my own biological children, I don't have any. Like I was saying earlier, I've never really wanted to have my own kids except for that real biological drive when I'm ovulating of just like, let's get pregnant. Other than that, I guess I occasionally have thoughts like, oh, it would be kind of cute to have a Levi baby. And wouldn't it be great to like raise all of my Levi babies in a vine-covered shack in the Garden of Eden? Wouldn't that be nice? But then my brain quickly brings me back to reality and reminds me that that's not how life goes. That's not what parenting is. So I could go on about this all day. You probably don't want me to. So just long story short, you're welcome. I don't have regrets about not being able to have my own children. Of course, you guys probably also remember that I have 2 stepchildren, so I am technically speaking not 100% child-free, which was my intention for life. I'm going to be totally honest with you guys. I fell in love with a man, and I knew that he had 2 children, and I accepted it, and I entered into the relationship anyway. I entered into this relationship with the explicit intention that those children will always feel welcome in our home. They will always feel like they are 100% a part of this family, and they will always feel that I am 100% behind them and supportive of them. I love them, and I am committed to doing whatever is best for their well-being. That said, I feel that I would be just as happy and just as fulfilled with my life if I were 100% child-free. I can say with a lot of confidence that if there were no children in my life, I would be fine. I cannot say the same about dogs or puppies. I would die without them. And so I understand maybe you feel about kids the way I feel about dogs and puppies. And so I can get that, but I do not feel that way about children. Please do not purposefully misinterpret what I am saying and go freak out in the comments section about how I hate my stepchildren. That is not what I'm saying. I love my stepchildren. I make sure that they know 100% that they are loved and welcomed and celebrated within our family. I am committed to that. And I am also aware that I would be fine if I were child-free. I certainly hope that you are emotionally mature enough to understand those nuances, because I'm not interested in sifting through that bullshit. Okay? So that is the complete story of my tubal ligation experience, the reasoning behind it, the logistical details, my recovery process, and how I have been feeling about it physically and emotionally for the past 6 years. Super stoked on my choice. So deeply grateful to the doctor who agreed to do this for me. I cannot imagine my life any other way. It is just so wonderful. I hope sharing my experiences and my thoughts has been helpful to anyone watching. You are welcome to leave questions and comments down below. I will do my best to answer those as I am able, and as always, make better choices for yourself. No one's gonna do it for you, and take really, really good care. I will see you all very soon. Bye!